Hello, everybody. The trick is to click the correct button, and that is always a bit challenging, especially when it's big and blue, and I miss it. So sorry about that, but good to see everyone a minute or so late. And there was tremendous interest and signups for this event on clearing your schedule. You would think that maybe there were a lot of people who had too many meetings. What a surprise. So I'm going to help you sort that out. And this is something I do all the time for my coaching clients. And what I promise them is an extra 8 hours, an extra day of work time, of strategic thinking time every week. So that's what we're going to work on today. And there'll be a prize for someone who actually achieves that, somebody who actually gets some results. So be ready for a surprise, be ready for prizes, be ready for some real excitement. If you don't know where you are, some of you might be watching this and saying, who's this guy? What's he talking about? Why does he do this? The brief version, and Laura is going to put up a little chyron with some of the cool stuff that I'm doing. I'm Squirrel. That is really my name. I run something called the Squirrel Squadron, which is a community of really cool, fantastic people. We've got 2,500 or so now, executives in all disciplines. So although I have a technical background, I don't only coach technical people. I've worked with about 300 different organizations, and I've helped people in all kinds of different groups. Today, I'm going to help pretty much anybody who has a schedule, which should be these days pretty much anyone with a pulse. So what we do on the squadron is have fantastic discussions and arguments and debates. And there's some really cool stuff. There's examples of things we're discussing on the forum and people that we're talking to and so on. So we're doing that in these free events that happen every week. So next week, for example, there's one on it'll come up on the list in a minute. I've managed to forget what it's about, but it's exciting. Oh, yes, I have something from my case file. So I'm giving you an example from a real company that had trouble understanding what it was actually doing. So getting strategic clarity and discovering that actually they agreed on what they were doing more than they thought they did. So strategic clarity next week in an event like this at the same time. We have discussions on the forum happening all the time. I have a backlog of really interesting comments that I need to get to. And you can get to all that cool stuff on squirrelsquadron.com. Okay, enough advertisement. Clinton says hello. And what I want everyone to do who's listening to me, if you're going to get the most out of this, if you're listening to me live and not on the recording, I want you to ask me questions. Now, everybody who signed up for this gave me a fantastic list of questions, and I'll work through those. But you guys are actually here, so you can go in front, and I'll answer some of those questions separately on the forum. But if you're here, I want you to ask me questions. I want you to argue with me. I want you to tell me I'm totally all wrong and it would never work in your organization to get rid of the meetings and to clear out your schedule in the way I'm going to talk about. I would love to hear debate and discussion. And the way you do that is that you would jump to whatever the chat function is in your tool, wherever you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. I'm very happy to look at your questions, and I work much better. You get a lot more out of me if you ask me questions as we go. All right, enough preamble. Let's start figuring out. Oh, wait a minute. There's one more piece of very important preamble. I'm launching a podcast, and it's going to have very exciting guests with all kinds of provocative ideas like the ones we're talking about today. So if you're interested in that, jump on over to the Squirrel Squadron, drop me a note. You'll find me at douglassquirrel.com. You can find all my emails and stuff there, but also on the Squadron. Let me know that you're interested in the podcast, because founding members are going to get some exciting new free stuff to get started with that podcast. Here's a hint. Our first guest is Joanna Rothman, who's a wonderful consultant out of Boston, who has some fantastic ideas for exactly this kind of thing, clearing your schedule, strategic alignment, some really super stuff. So Joanna is going to be with me on the 15th of August on a live stream like this. That's how we record the podcast. So you can participate and ask questions and listen to me sneeze sometimes, because it's full of pollen here in the summer in England. Okay, right. Now, if you come for the results of clearing out your schedule, be patient for just a moment, because I'm going to go in a different direction to start. I'm going to ask you to get a framework in place that's then going to help you enormously with giving yourself that one extra day every week. So the framework I'm going to ask you to put in place involves a napkin. That means a physical little thing that you get in, McDonald's or your favorite shop or favorite restaurant that's near you. It's just a little thing about this big. And, for my German clients, what I tell them to do is get what they call a beer deckel. A beer deckel is where you put your beer stein, your beer glass, and it's a little cardboard coaster, and you put it underneath to protect the table. Anything like that is what you need, because we're going to write the entire company strategy on that document, on that little small piece. I call that a napkin strategy. Now, how on earth is that going to help you with your calendar? Hang on, don't worry. I promise it'll be useful. But let me describe first how you get clarity at that level and at that brevity. Because the first thing you're going to do is say, Squirrel, we have a 70-page strategy document. Or, it's all locked up in my CEO's head. I don't really know what the strategy is. I don't understand what we're doing as a company. And how does that relate to my calendar anyway? Here's the key thing. You can write down a wrong strategy. It'll still work even if it's not correct, that leaves out important pieces, but fits in a tiny space. And when you have that, that's going to be one of the key inputs to clearing your calendar, is to get that strategy right. Now, let me give you an example, and I'm going to be telling you the story of this company and how I helped its senior leadership in the tech group to clear their calendar exactly the way we were describing. But let me tell you the first step I had them work on. This company is in Africa, and they are building an amazing technological platform there. And their CEO made very clear what her strategy was. And that is, she's looking for the technology people to build an incredible platform, something that works in every country, that works in all their different markets, and that is a fantastic foundation that goes at the bottom of all their wonderful initiatives in many different countries. This company is expanding like you wouldn't believe. They hired something like 52 engineers in 2 weeks. They're just exploding. And exploding is the right word. They're also exploding in terms of number of meetings, in terms of load and cognitive load on everybody who's working there. So she's doing a fantastic job clarifying what the overall strategy is, and you can fit it on a napkin. Here's the napkin. Here's what you write on the napkin. You would write, we want to release quickly and get feedback from customers. We want to be stable and predictable so people know what they're getting. And we're going to be supporting multiple locations, because she's in a couple of locations now. She wants to be all across Africa, be a Pan-African company very, very soon. Africa has some amazing opportunities in technology. I'm really pleased to see how much growth there is there and how well this company is doing. Now, you can write that down on a napkin, but parts of it are missing. The IT department came back to me and said, Squirrel, we're missing the part about where we actually make the laptops work. Hang on a second. What about our network strategy? We need to make sure that we have actual network connectivity in these new countries. There's a lot missing here that we're actually working on. I said, that's okay. You don't need to include everything in your napkin strategy. In fact, it's better if it's missing some bits, but it has all the key elements. If you get something really wrong, somebody will correct you pretty quickly as you start to use it, as we'll see. But you can start promulgating this napkin strategy, and it helps you in lots of places. It helps you align your engineers to the direction you need to go and say, don't do this instead. We'll see more of that in a minute. It will help you with relations outside your department. If you're in marketing and you understand that the overall company strategy is to penetrate the US, say, then when you say, look, I need resources to start doing more advertising, more landing pages in English and Spanish for the US, you can point back to the napkin strategy. Say, we're all working together on this. So you folks in sales are hiring there. You folks in technology, you need to build me some tools that let me build these landing pages over there in customer service. Who are you training in Spanish so we can actually talk to our customers in the US? That's another example that I see often in my clients. So the first step is create a napkin strategy. Make sure you have clear for you, and you're socializing and talking about it with everybody. What is the company direction? And you'd be amazed how many times I ask people to write this down, and they either can't come up with anything. They say, I have no clue. I really don't have it. Or they can't compress it from the 70-page document. This is a hard thing, but they can do it, pressed a little bit and with a little bit of help. Or that they say, actually nobody agrees. And that's a bigger problem, because you won't be able to sort out your calendar and get people aligned on what you should be doing and what your team should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, unless you're very clear about where the company is going. So we want to get that foundation in first. Okay, if anybody's confused, I want you to shout in the chat, in the comments, say, yo, squirrel, wait a minute. I don't see how that's related. I couldn't come up with a napkin strategy. I've tried that and it didn't work. So please let me know if you're having any trouble with that initial idea of the napkin strategy. I'm going to assume, because none of you have screamed at me yet, that it makes sense to you. I do see that Jillian is saying hi. Hi, Jillian. Clinton said hi. Others, feel free to jump in with comments and questions. All right. But now we're going to get to how you use that napkin strategy. And you have to do something really terrifying, which I'm going to show you. And this really frightens people. So, sit down carefully. If you're, listening to this while driving, hold the steering wheel a little more carefully. And I hope you're not watching. I'll tell you what's on the screen. Do be careful, because this is quite scary. And I don't know if you can see my pointer. Oh, I didn't realize that. You can see my screen, but I don't think you can see where my arrow is. Oh, okay. I didn't quite realize that was the case, but I'll just have you imagine where my pointer is. This is a meeting, and the technique that you need to use in order to clear time in your calendar involves a button that is on this screen. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing my pointer up here. It's up, at the title of the meeting, and I'm reading that, and I'm checking, oh, yes, I'm going to meet Laura in Google Meet. And I can see that it's at 5:30. It's right after this session. And I'm moving my pointer down. It's passing the list of guests. It's coming down here to the bottom. And about here, just above the buttons that are here at the bottom, and I'm sure your email, also your calendar also has these buttons. When I have them do this with me, on the screen like this. And when they get down here, they start to twitch. And they start to look very uncomfortable. They get a little red in the face. They start speaking a little more disjointedly. Their finger wiggles, and they start bringing their finger down, but they really can't quite get to the button that I want them to use. And that is the no button, or the cancel button, if you have actually introduced the meeting. And the reason is, and if you imagine doing this with one of your meetings, you might feel that nervousness. In fact, I'd like to offer a prize to any of you. If you want a free book, my colleague Laura, who's watching us here, will send you a free book if you tell me that you are actually canceling a meeting live or saying no to a meeting live here. Imagine you're doing that. You want to get the free book from Squirrel, and you're saying, oh man, I'd sure like to say no to a meeting. And maybe it's a meeting with your boss. And you think about what will happen if you click this no button. It will make you feel nervous. Your heart rate goes up, right? You switch into fight or flight mode. If you think, oh gosh, this is a meeting I booked, I set it up for my team to meet and discuss this important topic, and now I'm not going to go, or I'm going to cancel it for them. That will make you feel uncomfortable. That's the right feeling. You want that feeling. Now, it could be that feeling is telling you, don't cancel this particular meeting. It is actually important. That's where your napkin strategy comes in. Go back to your napkin strategy and say, how does this meeting fit into my napkin strategy? Now, I happen to be using this meeting as an example, so I'm actually going to cancel it. But if I were doing this for real, I would be thinking this really does fit into the napkin strategy for the Squirrel Squadron. So I might stop myself and I might say, hang on a second, this one I actually need because it fits into the company strategy and the company's direction. But so many times, as you consider each meeting, as you look at each one that you have in your calendar, you will say, I don't need to be in this one. This does not feed the company strategy. Somebody else could do this. I could delegate this. And we'll go through some of your questions on these specific topics about how to do this and when to do it and when to give it to somebody else. But the key question always, which you're going to use also in the next step, is, does this apply to the company strategy? Is this something that is going to move the organization ahead in the direction that, that we have decided collectively is the right one? And so many times you're going to say no. And then you just do this magic thing. You click the no button and the meeting disappears, right? That's what you need to do. And it is terrifically, terrifically difficult. People get very, very nervous. They need a lot of hand-holding and help from me to feel okay about actually canceling a meeting. But you need to take that step. Now, all of you are imagining, oh my God, what would happen if I did this? Some of you may have actually done it. If somebody's done it, put, hey, I did it. I actually canceled a meeting in the chat. Laura will take down your name and send you a free book. So there's a real prize here for getting rid of one meeting. All you have to do is one meeting. And hey, we'll trust you. Don't lie, right? There's no point in doing that. But if you've canceled a meeting as a result of this session right now, put your name in the chat. Laura will send you a free book. You know what? I bet a bunch of you won't do that. And that's because you have this nervousness, this resistance. It's kind of like, going over a hill. Once you get over the hill, you're okay, and you can go downhill. Going up the hill is a really hard push, right? You're cycling, you're driving, whatever it is, you have to do more in order to get over the resistance. And one of the reasons for that resistance is because whoever is receiving your no is going to be unhappy. And I'm not telling you, by the way, to send them an email first or phone them up and say, I'm thinking of not coming, or send them a carrier pigeon with a special apologetic message and a song and dance to do. No singing telegrams, right? This is clicking the no button with no other explanation. Now, what happens when you do that? Well, what happens when I coach my clients to do it, and I make them do it in front of me, I make them click the button. None of you have gotten the free book yet. So, I'm wondering whether any of you are actually canceling here. Cancel a meeting, say no to a meeting, and you might get a really vigorous response. Somebody might say, oh my God, Jill, why haven't you come to this meeting? You were supposed to come. Clinton, where are you going? I want you in this meeting. That could be your boss. That could be the chairman of the board. That could be an important customer. And you have decided that what you're doing in that meeting doesn't meet the company strategy. They may not agree. That is the point. What we're trying to produce here is productive conflict. And by clicking the no button, by triggering that automatic message that says, Jillian isn't coming, Squirrel's going to skip this meeting, what you're producing is a response from the other person. And it's a response you can't get simply by saying, oh, I'm thinking of not coming. Oh, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be a bit late. That kind of wishy-washiness doesn't produce the productive conflict. If you send the no message, and the person comes back and says, hey, but I really need you, you then have the opportunity to have a discussion about the direction. And that's why I had you start with the napkin strategy, the beer deckel, right? The summary of what it is we're trying to do as an organization and your reasoning for why you thought this meeting didn't contribute to that, which is why you clicked the no button. Now, I'm going to come back to how you manage that productive conflict, because you had some great questions about this, and you may have some live here as well, which I'd be happy to answer. But I do want to make sure to mention what you do once you have clicked no, because there's a very important additional step. And that additional step is, let's see if we can go back to my calendar. I don't think I'm giving away any secrets here. The other thing that you do is, on top of that time that you just cleared, you do not leave it blank, because then some crazy person will put it in again or put in something else. It will appear. So what you do is you give it any kind of title. I have people who put work. I have people who put focus. I have people who put busy. I even have people who put go away. You can pick whatever you want. I'll pick go away. No meetings, something like that. Whatever message you want to give that clearly communicates to others, don't bug me at this time. Don't put something back in here. This is time for me to think strategically. For example, you might be getting some feedback on your napkin strategy, and you got to go, wait a minute, this isn't okay with me. Wait, I'm headed the wrong direction. Hey, I've got to align with the CEO here. And that kind of discussion is exactly what you want in your focus time, in your strategic time that I'm clearing for you. And what I promise you is that if you follow this relentlessly and you make sure to question each meeting, compare it against the napkin strategy, put in focus time, when you say no to a meeting, when you cancel a meeting, you put in focus on top of that, you will gain at least a day a week of that focus time, of that strategic thinking time. That's how you get to the outcome I've been promising. Now, there are lots of problems with this, and we're going to deal with all the things that go wrong. We're going to make sure we handle all of those things. But I wanted to get you the fundamental steps. Napkin strategy, consider against the napkin strategy, use the no button, and add focus, right? If you do all those steps and you do them relentlessly for every new session that comes in, you will never have an overwhelmed calendar day again. And that's what I promised you I would be able to achieve. Now, I have lots of questions and lots more stories and ideas for how to handle this, but I see I have something here. Toshi says, click no to a meeting. Trying not to feel anxious or fear of missing out. Fantastic. Toshi, I want you, you've won the book. So what I want you to do is get in touch with me. Look on squirrelsquadron.com. You'll see my email there. I'll make sure that Laura gets you a book. A couple of selections. I have books from previous guests here on the live stream. I have my book, Agile Conversations. We'll make sure that Toshi gets a book. Congratulations to Toshi for overcoming that resistance, which is huge. And I bet a bunch of you were like, oh man, okay, well, Squirrel can't see me here. I'm kind of hiding at home. He can't see me from his house in Frogholt. That's far away from me. Whew. So I don't actually have to cancel a meeting. No, you still do. I'm telling you, cancel a meeting, say no to a meeting, just like Toshi did. Toshi's still alive. Toshi's still here. And you will have, I predict, Toshi, really productive, really interesting conflict as a result of your willingness to feel a little anxious, to have some fear of missing out. That's what happens. That's natural. But I bet you're going to have a very productive conversation with the person who invited you to that meeting. And you may change your mind. You might go to the meeting. Or you might say, look, I got this focus time back. Now I can be more strategic. Toshi, congratulations. Thank you. Make sure to get in touch and tell us your address so we can send you a book for your courage in taking that step. By the way, that doesn't get everyone else off the hook. Toshi may have won a book, but I really want everybody else also to go to your calendar, find that no button and click it. Now, what might Toshi have been frightened of? What might have happened? Toshi says, thank you. Fantastic. What Toshi might be frightened of is the sort of reaction that someone gives and then not knowing what to do. So the other person says, Toshi, I really need you. Why aren't you here? Oh my God, what are we going to do? Everything's going to end. And what Toshi needs to do is to disappoint that person helpfully. And I'm going to explain how to do that. I'm going to explain with a story that will seem initially unrelated. So be patient. I promise this story will be really, really helpful. But it starts in a San Francisco lunchroom. So I'm at my very first company. I'm a very junior engineer. I have very wet behind the ears, don't really know how to code very well. I have reasonable skills, but I've never worked in a company before. So I don't really understand how it works. And I went off to the lunchroom one day, and I was just sitting there by myself having a nice lunch that I'd packed. And in wanders the person who had hired me, who was in a completely different part of the organization. She was, I think it was marketing, might have been implementation or operations, that kind of thing. I was deep in the code, so we were not people who interacted often, but she had interviewed me. And so I knew who she was, and I waved as she wandered in with a friend, but I didn't interrupt. Excuse me, I didn't interrupt because she had a conversation going. And I couldn't help but hear her conversation, which made me about fall off my chair. Those lunchroom chairs that are high up. I almost injured myself because what she did as she wandered in and waved at me is to say to her friend, and yeah, we're going to miss all our targets this quarter. Oh my God. Oh no, we're a publicly listed company. I've just joined, I have share options. Are we all going to go bankrupt? This is terrible. We're going to miss all our targets. So of course, then I was riveted, right? I was really listening closely. And what she said publicly, she wasn't trying to hide this. She knew people could hear her. What she said to her friend was, the reason we're going to miss those targets is I've put John in charge. And I thought, oh my God, John's in trouble. What's John doing? And she said, John is brilliant. He's just not so experienced. And he doesn't know how to deliver to all these customers the way I do. But I need to do something else. I said, oh my God, what's the something else? Oh goodness, what is that going to be? How is that going to work? Why is John in charge instead of this person who hired me? And she said, the reason I'm doing something else is I'm on a plane to Boston every week. And what's happening in Boston is we're buying a company there. And that's going to totally change the face of the organization, completely reshape our revenue model. It's a huge deal. And that's why I'm spending all my time there. It's more important than the entire output of my 100-person division. And then she wandered out of the lunchroom. And here I am in total shock, completely forgetting my lunch at this point. I said, my God, I have just got some tremendous, very valuable information. Now, as a very junior engineer, I didn't kind of appreciate what was going on there. I thought this was terrible news. I had to react and, kind of cover my head and look out for bombs dropping. In fact, this was very good news. And it really helped me, not just as a casual overhearer, but it also helped, of course, the person she was talking to. And I'm sure she was giving this message to lots of other people. And it helped them be helpfully disappointed, because other people were probably depending on her outputs. I certainly was. I was expecting to build features that she was going to implement and use in her team. And, those guys weren't going to be ready, or they couldn't use them. So I needed to adjust my behavior to match that her division wasn't going to be very focused. So that was really helpful for me to know, but of course also very disappointing. Oh, wait a minute, I'm working on X and she's not going to use it. Why is that happening? But that's the helpful part, is she explained to me indirectly, just by having a conversation in public. She helped me understand that whatever was going on in Boston was super important and I better pay attention. So you can bet I found out who we were buying in Boston, why we were doing that, how we could help them in technology, whether there would be technological problems with it, how my boss was supporting that and why he was suddenly getting on planes to Boston. A whole lot of things fell together, and I could adjust my behavior to match the company direction because I had been disappointed helpfully. Now, how does this relate to Tashi clicking cancel on the meeting, to the rest of you clicking no and saying, no, I'm not going to come? When somebody comes to you, you can go back to your napkin strategy, pull out your beer decal, right? So you're going to look at that and you're going to say, well, this meeting with you, although it's important, it's good for you to have, isn't as important as our work in Boston or our expansion into a new programming language or a new type of technology that we're going to use, or our AI strategy, or our new marketing plan, whatever it is. You can tell that person what is more important than what they invited you to the meeting for. And just like me in the lunchroom, they may be shocked. They may say, I'm not okay with that. I have questions about that. Super. This is a productive conflict. Now, a couple things may happen as you have that productive conflict. They might say to you, actually, we'll be shut down if we don't deal with this compliance issue. That's what this meeting's about. And, it may be great that we're buying a company in Boston, maybe super that we're planning to expand into China. Nobody's going to expand anywhere if the regulator shuts us down. And then you say, oh, wait a minute, let me go back there. And if you look carefully, you will notice that you can go back to a meeting and you can uncancel it. You can unsay no. So that's an okay action. There's nothing wrong with that. If you discover something that fits your beer decal, like not going out of business, yeah, that is kind of required for doing these things. Okay, my napkin strategy matches this one, I'm going to go. But much more frequently, what will happen is the person will say, oh, I didn't realize this was more important than that, but that probably means I should do A, B, and C. And you say, yes, and also D, E, and F, right? So suddenly you're having this very productive conversation about company direction, reinforcing the napkin strategy, checking that you've got it right, and learning new information. So there's tremendous opportunity in the no button. And that's why I'm showing you exactly where it is. I'm so proud of Tashi and any of the others of you who went and actually found the no button, got over that resistance and clicked it, because you are going to get the benefit of disappointing people helpfully. Guess what, by the way? You can disappoint people helpfully on other things. Like, we're not going to deliver this piece of software on time because we're going to do something else more important. We're not going to follow that marketing strategy because we've discovered that it's unethical and it's not something we want to do. We've decided as a company not to use that particular method. We're going to do this instead. All of these are very useful ways to disappoint somebody who's expecting X and tell them that Y is more important. So use this method, use the opportunity your calendar gives you to reinforce the messages in your napkin strategy. That's the value that you can get from clearing your calendar. Not to mention that now that Tashi's clicked no, Tashi now has a focus time, right? I'm assuming Tashi did it the way I demonstrated. You click no and then immediately put something on top. So nothing else comes in. And now you can think about how to even disappoint some more people, hopefully, how to progress further. Okay, now let me turn to some of your fantastic questions. I want to tell you a little story about this company in Africa and how I helped them and what their results were. But before that, if I can actually get it up here on my screen, I'm working on it. Got to click the right button. There we go. I'm going to run through some of your questions. Now, the great thing about this session is that there were loads of people very excited about it. And some of you are here live and some of you will watch the recording, and that's great. I may not get to all your questions. I'm going to try to answer them in the forum. where I see them. Some of them were actually on other topics, so we may do them in other events, in other live streams, and so on. If your question doesn't get answered, and you're like, hey, Squirrel, you didn't answer my question, send it to me again. And I will pay more attention to, I'll find a way to respond to you in a helpful way. There were just a lot of them, and that's a great problem. You're also welcome to throw in your questions here, and you guys who are here live, you get to go to the front of the queue. So if you have a question here, I will go to yours first. But I have a long list here, and I'm just going to go through them in the order that my very, very helpful community manager, Laura, has put them on the forum. And I'm going to start with a question from Lucas. Lucas's question is how to get out of the hamster wheel. Boy, that's a good analogy, right? You know, the hamster who's running around in the wheel and just going around and around, never gets anywhere, right? Hamster in the cage just runs around, never actually gets to like some delicious food or something. It's just round and round. The hamster wheel of execution, to have enough time to make sure we are actually doing the right things. Okay, fantastic. So, Lucas, the first step here is to break the wheel. So the wheel is typically that you get lots of meetings, lots of actions to take, lots of things to do, and it fills your day. And you just look at that and you say, I got all this stuff to do. How could I think strategically? How could I even come up with a napkin strategy, Squirrel? I haven't got any time to think. I don't take a walk in the woods. I don't reflect over my lunch. I'm not going and having a fun discussion with other people around the water cooler. I'm stuck at home. I have a huge list of tickets in Jira to work through. I have tremendous amounts of meetings with partners, whatever it is, and I don't get any time because I'm executing. What you have to do is break the wheel. And that means, Lucas, that you're going to do things less well. And that's going to be an opportunity to disappoint people helpfully. So what you do is you say, okay, I'm performing at this level. I'm getting this level of items done. You know, I'm doing 10 tickets a day. I'm responding, I'm managing 12 people and responding to all their needs. I'm meeting with tons of partners and customers, whatever it is that your job entails, Lucas. You look at what you are doing currently and you say, I'm going to do less. Not that I'm going to do 0, but I'm going to move from 15 tickets a day to 10. I'm going to move from 10 customers a day to 5. Whatever it is, you reduce it to a level you feel is appropriate, that you can do without sort of your brain exploding. And you tell everybody you're doing that. I am breaking my hamster wheel. I am going to do less stuff. That means you are going to have to do more stuff, or we're just not going to get it done. Some customers will quit. Some customers will leave us, go to the competition as a result of what I'm about to do. This is terrifying. You think Toshi clicking no was scary. Imagine doing this. You might really mess up some part of your work, but you have to do that to break the wheel. And be careful, to break the whole company. If there is a compliance issue, you're going to send your CEO to jail. Don't do that. That's not so good. If you're the chairman of the board, don't miss the board meeting. I don't mean any of that. But what I do mean is taking the current level that's unsustainable and bringing it to a sustainable level, whatever the consequences may be to the company. Do it in a way that fits in with a napkin strategy. If moving into China is your big strategy and that's where you're going, don't cancel the China meetings, but maybe cancel the ones with your current customers and say, look, somebody else can handle those. I'm going to deal with the new ones because we're trying to expand. Whatever your company's strategy is, find a way to break your hamster wheel and reduce it to give yourself enough space. And then, of course, you're going to cancel the meetings to fit what you've reduced. So you went from 10 tickets to 15 tickets to 12. That gives you 3 tickets worth. Maybe that's 2 hours every day. You block that with focus time. You say, great, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to answer those questions. I'm not going to manage those people. I'm not going to deal with that partner. That means from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, I have my focus time. And that's what you block. And guess what you could do? You go take a walk and you go think about, how could I get even more focus time? How could I make this even more efficient? And you get a very good virtuous cycle there. So you get on a hamster wheel going the other way, and you start undoing some of the things that are creating the extra work for you. And once you can actually break through there, that really makes a huge change. And the story I'm going to tell at the end may give you some illustration of that, Lucas. Lucas, if you're here live, feel free to tell me if that didn't answer your question or if I didn't get to enough there. But I hope I've given you a step to take to get out of the hamster wheel and to break yourself free so you have some more time. let's see, Jillian, I know she's here. So she says, when your schedule is clearer for holidays, what do you focus on? Well, I'm a little confused, Jillian, so I'll answer that two ways. First of all, if my schedule is clear for holidays, I'm going to have a holiday. Now, my wife loves to tell me that when I go on holiday, I like read management books and listen to blog posts, and I send messages to Laura saying, I've had a new idea. Let's promote the squadron this way. She's right. So I have a challenge with this. I will not question that for one moment, that it's difficult when I have a holiday to actually turn everything off. But I'm trying to get better at that. And my advice to you is don't do what I always do. I'm trying to improve in this area too. But the best thing for you and me when you have a holiday is actually to switch off. Because when you really get an actual break, your brain actually relaxes. You have better ideas. You could look up the neuroscience on this. It is actually very helpful. And I try hard to do that. I'm not as good at that as I would like to, but I'm trying. And you should try too. I don't know if that's what Jillian means. Jillian, I can see you're here, so please clarify if I've misunderstood your question. Maybe what you mean is your schedule is clearer, you're able to take some holidays, and then what do you do? What do you do with that clearer focused time? The holidays in that other people are off. I see. Okay, great. This is a very European problem. By the way, those of you who don't know me, I'm English, but I talk funny, so I am in England here. So I think you're in a European holidays. Americans are saying, what's a holiday? So, okay, fine. You guys need to work on your human resources provisions and so on. But even you have people who go on a brief vacation, as you'd say, and those folks then leave a hole for everybody else. So they're on holiday and you get extra work. So you're lumbered with more. Your hamster wheel is going around even faster. Okay, I didn't understand that was your question, Jillian. Thank you for clarifying. So what you do in that case is you have a wonderful opportunity. Other people's holidays, if you are a leader, manager, executive, the kind of people that we have in the squadron, they are a great chance for you to find out who has a sort of general's baton in their backpack. I forget where this comes from. I know it's always used in chess, where you can promote a pawn to a queen. You know that the pawn always has a queen's crown in their backpack, so when they get to the end of the row, they can turn into a queen. But I think this is in the military as well, that a foot soldier always has a marshal's baton, just in case, they have to get a battlefield promotion and they have to do something else. Now, some people are going to be good marshals. Some people are going to be good at taking over somebody else's job, and they are future leaders. Some people are just not, and they're not cut out for that. They aren't going to be able to take somebody else's job. They do great at theirs, and you want to help them do that. It can be hard to figure out which ones are which, and that's what a holiday is great for. So what I love to do with a holiday is, for example, let's say that the product manager in a technology team, I know that's a situation Jillian's often in, and she coaches people and helps people with it. So the product manager goes on holiday, and you're like, hey, this team depends on Bob. Bob helps that team understand what customers need and how to work with them. And, this product manager is doing a good job. What do we do without Bob? This is a great opportunity because you turn to Mary. And Mary is an engineer in the team, maybe not the most senior engineer, maybe not the one who understands customers the best, but the one who's most curious, the one who's always piping up and asking tough questions, the one who's always saying, let me go talk to that customer. And you say, okay, great. Let's see if Mary can do it. Because when Bob comes back, maybe Mary could take some of Bob's work and free up Bob. Bob gets more focused time. Bob gets to think more about strategy and beer deckles and napkin strategies. But maybe also Mary's not ready. The holiday is a great limited time. So you say, just while Bob's away, Mary's going to do this, this, and this, run the stand-up, meet the customers. This is what Mary's going to do. And it's not going to be Jillian, right? It's not going to be you doing it because we're not going to touch your focus time. You're going to continue doing the strategic work. Now, that may mean that the team diminishes its productivity for a short time. And that may be challenging. So you have some complicated management tasks to do. Guess what? You can do that in your focus time. So as you are thinking strategically, think about who could do it, how could we reduce the load, how could we make it mitigate the problem, how could we bring somebody to backfill Mary, whatever it is. And during Bob's 2 weeks of holiday, or if it's America, maybe 2 days of holiday, then Mary gets a chance to try out. Now, one of two good things can happen when Bob comes back. Either Mary's been doing some of these jobs and doing a fantastic job. We love what Mary's doing, and it's a real big help. And you say, hey, Bob, you probably want to tell Bob this before he goes on holiday. Mary has done so well. We're going to have her keep doing that. And then that takes this part off from you, and you can focus over here. And Bob says, hurrah, this is great. We freed up some time for Bob, and we haven't touched your time. Or another possibility is Mary didn't quite do it well enough. It wasn't really there. He didn't get there. Coaching opportunity for Mary. You say, Mary, great try. This is what you need to do next time. Bob, you're back in the seat because you're back from holiday and you take over these things again. Both of those are good outcomes. You've done an experiment. You found it out. You found out whether the team can function in a slightly different way, whether somebody has the capacity to have that marshal's baton in their backpack. And if they don't, you learn something. If they do, you learn something. So that would be the way I would handle somebody else going on holiday that you need help from. Who else could take that on? Not you, but who else could do it? All right, Jillian, if that helps, fantastic. If not, please ask me more questions. Really glad that you're here asking super queries for me. Right. Now, I don't know who this is. Let's see if I can get this person's name. Natalie. Natalie says, and hi, Natalie. I think I know you well. Very good to have your question here. Why are people afraid to cancel meetings? You know, those reoccurring meetings that get set up when stuff needs discussion or reviewing that end up engraved in your calendar. Yes, engraved in your calendar sounds terrible. Ever more gradually providing less and less value. Why are they frightened to cancel them? Because it would rock the boat. It would cause the kind of productive conflict or unproductive conflict that people want to avoid. And that's what I'm counseling you to do. And, Tashi was a wonderful example, earned a book for it, but even more is going to earn the opportunity to have more focus time, more freedom from these engraved in your calendar meetings as a result of overcoming this resistance. But the resistance comes from the fear, and the fear is fear of conflict. What I want you to do is to think about conflict would be good. If I click this no button, somebody will have a really interesting conversation with me. My co-author, Jeffrey, who wrote Agile Conversations with me, he loves to say that if you're in a meeting and you're bored, there's a really good cure for being bored in the meeting. This is a way to handle the meeting if you've actually already gone. It's not our topic today, but I just thought it was a good related story. He says, if you're in a meeting and you're bored, a really good way to cure that is to announce that you're bored and say, I just thought I'd share something with everybody. This is a really boring meeting. Is anybody else bored? I predict that this meeting will no longer be boring. It will suddenly become extremely interesting. There may be a really vigorous conflict, but you may find out everybody else is bored and they don't want to be there. You may find out that it's actually really interesting, but only to two people. You may find out that there's a different topic that would be much more interesting. But producing that conflict, getting over that resistance to say, it doesn't make a lot of sense, is the key to getting the helpful results, to doing the helpful disappointment that then reinforces what's in your napkin strategy. So Natalie, I hope that helps. Again, with all of these, jump in, you, Natalie, or anybody else, and say, no, Squirrel, that wouldn't work for me. Oh, wait a minute, I don't see how to apply that. I have another related question. Or just, Squirrel, you didn't really answer that one. Any of those comments are very welcome. Right, I'm going to keep going through a few more of these. We have got one that a number of people asked. Dave asks, I've read a few blogs advocating getting rid of most one-on-one meetings. Your thoughts on this? Don't read those blogs. There's something really wrong there. Now, getting rid of is different from doing less frequently. So something that I think is a really inefficient way to clear time in your calendar is to produce less opportunity for learning. If a meeting is one that produces interesting results that change your strategy, that move your business ahead, why on earth would you cancel it? And your one-on-ones should be like that. I'm assuming, by the way, that Dave means one-on-ones with people either that you work for, so this might be with your boss or the CEO or somebody like that, chairman of the board, or it could be a one-on-one with people that work for you. So if you're the CEO, it might be with the CMO, the CTO, and the head of revenue, something like that. I would not cancel those. However, I might do them less frequently, and that might be disappointing. Guess what? Disappointing people helpfully. So you might say, look, you're doing so well, and I learn a lot from our one-on-ones, but I don't think you need them every week. Let's have them every 2 weeks, and I want you to be super prepared and bring me lots of really good questions so we can learn a lot of things about how to improve your team and how to help you manage better and move your career ahead. I would not cancel them outright. because you're going to remove one of the best ways for you as a leader to get really useful information and to influence people within your team. But you can do them less frequently. And that's another issue. Just to sort of make it stark for people like Tashi, who are so good at canceling. You also could not just click the no button, but you could click the less frequent button, right? So you could make it every 2 weeks, every month, instead of every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is that you find helpful. And you can disappoint the other person helpfully by saying, I need that every other week. I need some more focus time to deal with this new strategy. And yeah, what I promise you is that when we are together, I will be guiding you in that new strategy and helping you align with it. So supposing that they understand that and they get aligned with it, that is a great opportunity to help them understand where you're going. But I would not cut off the communication. That seems like not a good idea. Not the greatest blogs to be reading, Dave. You certainly wouldn't read that in the forum. Well, at least not from me. Right. And now we have Robin. So Robin asks what to do when there's no one willing or capable to delegate a certain task to. Now, I was telling a little story for Jillian. I made it up about Bob and Mary and saying, when Bob goes on holiday, we're going to find out whether Mary can do it. So I kind of dealt with the is nobody capable? But here's another challenge. What if nobody's willing? You go to Mary and she says, oh my God, I don't want to talk to customers. What are you talking about? And you go to all of Mary's friends in the team and they're, no, I don't want to do that. That's not going to work for me. You have then a team composition problem, because what you don't have is enough T-shaped people. Now, a T-shaped person, I'm drawing it here for those of you listening rather than, if you're driving, don't look at the screen. But, I'm drawing a T, the letter T. And a T-shaped person, also known as a generalizing specialist, has deep knowledge in one area and shallow but real interested knowledge in other areas. For instance, I know marketing people who are fantastic at sending super emails, writing great copy, understanding the depth of marketing. But you know what? You send them off on a sales call, they could handle it. They're not going to be great salespeople, but if they need to understand an organization, map who the power brokers are, and actually do some sales, they could. And, if they needed to go over into technology and help with designing some landing pages or designing some screens, they've got a visual sense that really helps them over there. Probably not going to write code, but they're perfectly capable of giving some useful feedback to the technology team. I certainly got great ideas from marketing people throughout my career. So that kind of T-shaped person is not the kind of person who says, nope, I'm not capable, I'm not willing. But the one who does say, I only do what's on my business card, I only do what's in my job description, is not the kind of person you really want in your organization. And I would be filtering out those sorts of people if you have a lot of them. Now, you might have a few super specialists. They really only do what they're good at, and you can deal with that because you have plenty of other people who are more flexible, more willing to try something, more willing to do something when someone's on holiday, when you need more focus time. They say, great, I'll step up and try that, even if I'm not so great. And you can help them to feel comfortable about that. You can mitigate the fear for them by saying, hey, wait a minute, you don't have to be great at this, but if you do 80% of what I do, that's great, because I'll gain 20% on this other area, which is super important. And so you're disappointing helpfully and giving them more information. So Dave, if you have, Robin, if you have this problem all over the place, you have a problem in your team composition, hire some more T-shaped people and ask more questions about how to do that. Maybe we should do a session on it. Maybe we have. Maybe Laura can help me remember. But if we haven't, we'll do another one on how to find those people and how to get them. If you do have some of them around, go to them and ignore the kind of super specialists you have who aren't willing to shift. I've had engineers who would say, I only write in this programming language. I never write in any other. I came to this job because I got to write in this programming language. Don't ask me to do anything else. I help those people to leave, because they are so inflexible that I can't put them on a business critical, customer valuable item if it is outside their area of specialty. They're an iOS developer. They build for the iPhone. And I say, could you help on Android? And they say, no, I hate Android. You're working in the wrong company. You need to figure out how Android works. You don't have to be great at it, but let's deal with this problem so that we can help our customers. And if they're not focused on outcomes for the business, if they're not following your napkin strategy, probably not the right folks. Okay, Robin, I hope that's tough but helpful advice. Again, ask me if you need anything more. think I got time for at least one more question here. I do want to get time for my story at the end. Jamie asks, how do you stick, excuse me, how do you stick to your empty day and not let anything else creep in? Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, Jamie. Here's what you do, is you need the same fortitude, you need that same discipline that you summoned when you originally clicked no. And that's why kind of blocking it helps you, because somebody will ignore that. People will try it. They'll say, oh, I wonder, I bet Jamie doesn't really mean it. Jamie doesn't, I know Jamie just, goes and sits and stares out the window and comes up with new great ideas. Jamie's got to listen to my ideas. Let's have the meeting. Let's have him meet the customer. Let's have him do this. And you have to have the fortitude to create more conflict with that person and to say, no, this was blocked for a reason. Here's the reason. So make sure you share that. That's a learning opportunity. Do not simply say, no, I'm not coming. You should have read my calendar, and leave it at that. Take the learning opportunity to say, what I'm going to spend that time doing instead is, and then you're back in the lunchroom with me. You're back with that person who was wandering through saying, what we're doing in Boston is making a huge difference. And that's more important than the output of my entire organization. You need to give that kind of message to the person who's requesting your time. And you may have to give it to somebody like the chairman or an investor or an important customer. It may be somebody who's very difficult to say no to, but there's a huge opportunity. So remember that you're getting a learning opportunity for them and for you by saying no when that request comes in. It really helps to have it blocked, as I was telling you to do and showing you. Once you've got that focus time in, it's harder for them. There's a little psychological barrier for them now to say, I want to break that. I want to take this busy time and put it somewhere else. If you have a lot of trouble with that, Jamie, if you run into that challenge frequently, come back to the forum, ask a question there, write me. I would love to help you with that specific issue if it happens to you a lot. But what you should find is that blocking the time plus giving people helpful feedback and disappointing them in a useful way really produces good outcomes for you. Let's see how that works. Okay, so let me tell you the story just to be inspiring a little bit, because I've just done this. One of the things that made me want to have this this session was this wonderful result with my African client. So the challenge I was having is the people I was coaching them in a group, and I still am. So they would come very late to each meeting. And it'd be a little frustrating for me because I'd come on and, I was all ready to talk to them, excited to talk to these folks doing really thrilling stuff. And I'd wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And, it really reached the breaking point when they all came 10 minutes late and they all had something else going in the background and I could hear it. I'm like, guys, what else are you doing? They said, we have this other meeting. It's more important. I said, don't you know about disappointing helpfully? You should have disappointed me helpfully. And they said, yeah, we're just so full. We really wanted your help. But we needed to be in another meeting too, because it was an emergency. So I said, go to the other meeting. We're going to clear your calendars. So we sat down, we did exactly this exercise, and we went through the whole day for one of them, and we cleared out everything. We did exactly what Tashi did, exactly what I showed you, taking each item, comparing it against the napkin strategy, which we'd worked on, and saying, it fits, it doesn't fit. I need to be there, I don't need to be there. No, 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 yes. And the result there was blocked time taking up at least half the day for almost all of them. And so they gained more than a day every week. And that's the sort of thing you can do. And you know what? They're on time to every meeting now. And they aren't doing another meeting in the background. So it's made a huge difference to their personal productivity. And guess what? That's paying off hugely for the whole organization. So this is the sort of thing that you can do. And I know there's a certain amount of sort of exhortation here. I feel like a trainer in a gym saying, one more rep, do it more, run one more lap. And I'm sort of telling you that this would be a good thing to do. It's not only good in the sense that more exercise is good for you. It's good for you in the moment, not just in the future when you get more time, but it's good because you get the opportunity to disappoint someone and tell them why. And when you do that, you increase alignment, you increase understanding, you learn more, and you get the opportunity to have more productive meetings. Maybe you need to be in that meeting, and you'll find out why. And you'll find out how it's related to your napkin strategy. Should you adjust the strategy? Should you adjust what you're doing? Or does the other person need to adjust what they're doing? Okay, I hope this has been helpful. There will be follow-ups. I didn't get to everybody's question. I'll try to get to a few of them at least on the forum. If I didn't get to your question in one place or the other, of course, feel free to come back to me. You can always find me on the Squirrel Squadron forum, and you can also find my email and everything else at douglassquirrel.com. I should put up, I always forget to do this, the best place to find me is here on the Squirrel Squadron. So get in touch if you have further questions, there are issues or puzzles, or I didn't answer your question well enough. I would love to hear from you on the Squirrel Squadron. And of course, if you join, then you'll also have the opportunity to get weekly emails from me to come to the exciting events. Our one next week is on a case study on an event that actually occurred in my recent coaching where people didn't understand each other well, and they turned out to be both arguing for the same thing. And how did we resolve that? How did we discover that? How could you apply that kind of alignment in your organization? That's the kind of thing we're always talking about in the Squirrel Squadron. So thank you so much for being with me. This was a fascinating topic. Glad so many of you could be here. And check us out on the forum. Check us out in future events. And I'll also, don't forget, I've got a new podcast coming, the Insanely Profitable Tech Podcast. Drop me a note and tell you all about that and some of the free stuff and launch bonuses that are coming for that August the 15th. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks so much.